What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another Battlefield 6 gun guide. In today's episode, we're going to be diving into one of the more popular guns in the game. This is the PW5A3, also known as the MP5. And starting it off, as always, let's have a look at its raw power potential. And our rate of fire with this is 771 rounds per minute, and it's going to be a 4 to 8 shot kill depending on the range. Now, when it comes to our time to kill potential, right up close in that 4 shot kill range, we've got a time to kill that's right around average for an SMG, and that means it's quite solid at 233 milliseconds, and that will increase all the way up to 545 milliseconds at longer ranges. As for headshots, it's pretty standard here. You do need to mix 3 headshots in order to reduce the number of shots to kill, or 2 if you're using either one of the ammo types that boosts our headshot damage multiplier. But generally speaking, I would just say don't bother aiming for the head with this gun. You're normally better off just aiming center mass. Next, let's have a look at our ranges, and there's really no surprises here. We've got the same range profile as all of the other SMGs, with the one exception being the PW5A3. So that maximum damage range is just 9.5 meters, and then we see a drop at 21.25 meters, 37.5 meters, and then finally 75 meters. As for our muzzle velocity, you can see it's kind of in the middle for an SMG, but that's not really a good thing. That is quite a slow muzzle velocity at just 432 meters per second. And this just means if you are planning on stretching your range out, which you will be able to do as you'll see when we take a look at the recoil, you'll just have to make sure that you're leading moving targets appropriately, and a lot more than you typically would with many of the other guns in this game. In either case, the next thing we'll look at here is hip fire, and as expected, it's the same as all of the other SMGs in the game, and that means it's got a great hip fire potential, so don't hesitate whatsoever to be hip firing in relatively close range engagements. And now let's have a look at recoil, and as we can see here, this gun absolutely excels in this area. I wouldn't say it's the most accurate SMG, but it's definitely one of the most accurate SMGs, and a big reason for that is it takes a while for the spread to kick in as well. So this gun kicks basically straight upward. There's essentially zero horizontal recoil. And yes, if you do hold the trigger down for too long, it will start to spread out a little bit, but really not that much. So what this means is close to mid-range, you can typically just full auto without having to worry about recoil or dispersion at all. And then when you start to stretch out your ranges a little bit, of course, at that point, you want to be tap firing a bit just to keep that spread under control. But honestly, this gun really excels in this area, and I feel quite confident challenging gunfights at ranges where SMGs should really have no business fighting in. Next, let's take a look at our handling stats, and across the board, we're pretty much just standard for an SMG here. There's no surprises. Our aim down sight and sprint out times are excellent, as expected with an SMG. We have a standard magazine capacity, and our reload times are also just standard for an SMG. There's really no surprises whatsoever there. Same thing with our mobility stats. It's the same as all of the other SMGs, and that means it's quite good. You can get around the map quite quickly, and you have a nice aim down sight movement speed as well. And with all of those base stats covered for multiplayer, let's have a quick look at REDSEC against 2 armor plates. This gun is going to be an 8 to 15 shot kill, just like many of the other SMGs, like the SJX for instance. And what that means for our time to kill potential is up close, we've got a great time to kill for REDSEC at 545 milliseconds. However, that only applies to that very short 9.5 meter range. That will of course increase quite substantially as you stretch your ranges out, especially once you get to a point where it takes you 15 shots to kill. That's just insane. So obviously you don't want to be challenging gunfights at too long of a range with this gun. However, in saying that, it is quite accurate for an SMG, so it does handle itself fairly well against many of the other guns in the game. Even against some of like the carbines and assault rifles, you may be killing a bit slower than those at mid-range, but you're going to be hitting your shots more effectively than many of them. And now that we've got all of that out of the way, we can finally move into some excellent attachment combinations I wanted to share for you guys. And the first build is my all-around build. This is my go-to. I'm going to be using this far more often than any other build with the MP5. And with it, we've got the standard suppressor on here, so we can stay off the radar to anybody that's at least 15 meters away from us. We have the extended barrel to help bring that muzzle velocity up to a more reasonable value at 540 meters per second. This still isn't a great velocity, but it's a nice improvement over what we have. For our underbarrel, we've got the 6.864 vertical. That helps bring the recoil down just a little bit. Not that it's necessary, but it does help a bit, and so I do like using that. For our magazine, we've got our 40 round mag there, we've got the standard ammo, and then finally, we're topping this off with the OSA 7 optic, which is just my preferred close quarters optic. And this one is just a nice, solid all-arounder. It's one of my go-to setups in this game because it's quite versatile. It holds its own very well up close, while still managing itself just fine at a bit of a distance. However, just as an alternative, since it is an SMG, it does do quite well with hipfire, so I wanted to share a nice hipfire build with this as well. And with this one, we're using the 50 milliwatt green laser to help quite a bit with our hipfire spread. We're using the CQB suppressor because this is the only suppressor that doesn't hurt our hipfire spread, and that still allows us to stay off the radar. We once again have the extended barrel on there just because there's not much reason to not use this. Even though it's not really going to apply too much in hipfire situations, there still will be situations where you'll want to aim down sight and challenge somebody at a bit of a range. We've also got the flashlight on here, which is going to be helping our hipfire while firing our gun. For our magazine, we couldn't quite afford the 40 round mag on this, so instead we're using the 30 round fast mag, so we can still reload quite quickly there. And then we once again have the standard ammo and the OSA 7 optic. And with this, you get a very tight and impressive hipfire spread, while still being able to handle fights at a bit of a range because this gun is really accurate without really needing any attachments. So while it's really geared toward hipfire, it's still quite a versatile build. And there we have it. That's going to wrap it up today's gun guide on the PW5A3. And when it comes to my thoughts on this gun, I love it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite gun in the game, but it's certainly up there. I would say it's probably at least in the top 5 for me. I always feel quite comfortable with this in my hands, and I know if I'm using this, I'm generally going to be performing quite well. Now, of course, those are just my thoughts on this gun, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about the PW5 in those comments down below. Also, I am taking suggestions for future episodes, so if there's a particular gun you want me to cover, please let me know what that gun is down below, and if you missed any of the previous episodes, we've covered quite a few of the guns in the game at this point. I will leave a link to the playlist in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.